This is ABC 7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Hi, I'm Ray Collins. Alan Cohn is off this week. Our top story, 2 days and 2 new stories involving police shootings nationwide. Last night, 32-year-old Philando Castile was shot and killed outside St. Paul, Minnesota during a traffic stop. Castile's girlfriend was in the car with her daughter, live streaming the aftermath on Facebook. Minnesota's governor wants an independent review. The day before, 37-year-old Alton Sterling was shot and killed by police in Baton Rouge. Officers were responding to a call about a man with a gun. The officers in both incidents are now on paid leave. The shootings are getting strong reactions from nationwide and the Suncoast as well.
Concerning, upset, disgusted at times when you see certain things. All those different emotions go through your head as an African-American male, and then you always kind of put yourself, am I next, or is there someone I know next?
Black people are not allowed to make the same mistakes that white people are without fear of being unjustly treated or being executed in the street by police without the due process that we all deserve as Americans.
At this hour, a local Black Lives Matter is underway at Fred Atkins Park in Newtown. It goes till 10 tonight. Organizers say they're calling for justice in both shootings. Police in Florida are kicking off a campaign to raise awareness of sexual assault, and that includes police in Bradenton. The initiative is known as Consent Florida. Its goal is to educate about what constitutes sexual consent. They say 1 in 6 women experiences sexual assault. The campaign has 2 branches, education in schools and also training law enforcement better.
If they come to us, that we will have an ear, we will listen, and we will understand. That's part of the training that we're looking at, training that helps our officers understand that after somebody has been victimized, it's not that easy to talk about.
Chief Bevan says the program is paid in part through public donations. New numbers are out tonight on the number of suicides by veterans, and they're not good. The VA examined more than 55 million veterans' records from 1979 to 2014 from every state in the nation. And a recent report says 22 veterans a day take their own lives.
It's not a do-it-yourself kit. And yeah, the world might suck big for you, but it can get better if you get some help.
And one of the things we owe our veterans is that there's hope out there, there's help out there. There's something that can be done so that they can feel better, and then they want to live.
The VA does have a crisis hotline, and the local American Legion post also holds regular support group meetings. An update now on the new EMS unit in Parrish. The service is just 2 months old and averaging about 6 calls a day. The unit can cut response time in half for emergency calls in Parrish, DeWitt, and the surrounding area. This is the first 24-hour ambulance service in 8 years in Manatee County. The spokesman says they've received good feedback so far. A locally owned business is leaving St. Armand's Circle. The Tube Dude will return to Main Street in downtown Sarasota. Owner Scott Gerber says that St. Armand's is gaining a party atmosphere, so he thinks he'd better return to Main Street.
We feel that the people that are coming to St. Armand's are a different crowd than what they used to be when we first moved here. And I think that St. Armand's is becoming more of a destination to come eat.
Tube Dude's last day on St. Armand's will be July 31st. Speaking of downtown Sarasota, the Improvement District there plans to spend nearly $200,000 for flower baskets attached to light poles. Over 100 baskets up by the fall. The budget for the next 3 years to maintain the flowers, $430,000. They should be nice. The city of Venice may double the rent for merchants who use sidewalk space. Restaurants along Venice Avenue currently pay $25 a month to use part of the sidewalk. There's also talk in Venice about expanding the sidewalks to accommodate the Americans with Disabilities Act. Speaking of which, new benefits are now available to Floridians with disabilities. They can now enroll in tax-free savings and investment accounts without any other threat to their government benefits. Qualified residents can save up to $14,000 annually without impacting benefits. Now, prior to this so-called ABLE Act, those with disabilities were limited to saving only $2,000 worth of assets annually to qualify for safety net programs.
We've given an opportunity now for these individuals to do their best. They're no longer going to be faced with the choice of, if I seek independence and I fail, I will lose the safety net.
Statistics show 4 out of 5 Americans with disabilities don't take part in the workforce. Supporters hope a compromise can be found involving employment and also keeping some benefits. Flying direct to Cuba may soon get easier from the Gulf Coast to Florida. Tampa is among the dozen airports that may take off for direct flights to Havana. Other cities approved include Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. Daily flights to Havana could begin as early as this fall. Travel, though, still includes those with certain purposes, such as relatives there, education, or other reasons. More on this story tonight at 11 o'clock. Well, this is the peak of sea turtle nesting season, and it's a record year here on the Suncoast. Mote Marine reports about 2,600 nests along our 35 miles of beaches in Sarasota County. That number breaks the previous record by more than 150 nests, and the season still continues till October. By the way, Longboat and Casey Keys have broken their individual beach records. Lots of numbers there. Let's go to the forecast now, and John Scalzi. I don't know who's responsible for counting all the nests out there.
Well, I think they have a lot of volunteers that do that. And it's great news because, you know, when Colin came through, we lost hundreds of nests.
That's true.
So it's nice to see those numbers showing some positive signs and some hope there for our loggerheads and sea turtles. That's great stuff.
Yes.
We had some pretty nice weather across the Suncoast over the course of the afternoon. We did have some bigger storms to our north up in Sumter County. They had some thunderstorms that produced damage, brought down some power lines, caused nickel-sized hail, gusty winds, that sort of thing, heavy downpours of rain. We didn't have a lot of that around here. We did have a few scattered showers, and we have one in progress currently as well. Looking at the satellite radar composite, you can see we have a fair amount of sunshine, though, still. And as the sun sets, it'll be kind of a beautiful evening, I think. One storm in progress on the Suncoast, pretty much, and it's in the process of dying out. It is gradually drifting toward the interstate, so areas around UTC and Lakewood Ranch, all in line for some rain over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. That storm system has gradually drifted from areas around 301 to closer to 75 right now. It's pretty much near, between Lockwood Ridge and University, and gradually drifting toward town center. So watch for that. It'll be dissipating over the course of the next half hour, 45 minutes, and then I don't think we're going to see a whole lot more developing. Temperatures warm across the area. We've got 91 in Sarasota, 91 in Arcadia. 86 degrees Longboat Key, 88 in Venice, 87 in Inglewood, and the heat index is still sweltering with 104 in Sarasota. Naples coming in at 102. We have 90s to the north of us where there's been a little bit more rainfall, kind of cooled things off just a tad. High pressure, the dominant weather feature over the center part of the state of Florida, continues to provide us with the kind of tranquil weather that we have seen over the last several days, with the exception of those few impulse storms that may be stronger. And I think that's probably what we'll see again tomorrow. This evening, temperatures ranging from 92 to 88 with about a 20% chance of mostly inland storms. Ray.
Weather continues. Okay, thank you, John. Still to come, an attempt to restrict gun sales to those on terrorist watch lists fails to get support from state lawmakers. We'll have both sides when we come back.
ABC 7's Pump Patrol, a list of the Suncoast's cheapest gas on mysuncoast.com.
Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? You need the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. A system that cleans practically anything and everything with super absorbent microfiber. Dip it in the washer side and the mess releases into the bucket. Then place it in the dryer side and push on the pedal. You get a clean mop pad that's practically dry and ready for more. And your hands will never again touch a dirty, disgusting mop. The heads are washable and reusable. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our 2-for-1 Pick It Up special and get a second spin mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-394-1524 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call 1-800-394-1524. Call now.
Whether you're a homeowner looking for a professional installation or a contractor looking for top quality products, Sarasota Glass and Mirror can meet your every need.
For 42 years, Sarasota Glass & Mirror has been the area's premier supplier and installer of quality glass products for your home or business. As an authorized PGT WinGuard dealer, we know how to protect your home with everything from the PGT WinGuard impact-resistant windows and doors to shower enclosures and decorative mirrors. The Sarasota Glass & Mirror team has the knowledge to tackle any project.
Plans for a special session on guns in Florida isn't going to happen. Democrats couldn't get the votes. More on this now from our Dwayne Lindo.
Executive Director of the School Safety Advocacy Council, Kurt Lavarello, has made it a career to study guns and safety.
We owe it to that Orlando community and those victims in Orlando to sit back and come up with a solution, whether you're a Democrat or Republican.
Lavarello's mindset is echoed by Florida Democrats. Recently, an attempt was launched to hold a special legislative session with the goal of restricting gun sales to those on terrorist watch lists. It failed to get the support it needed, and Republican State Representative Greg Stubbe says that's a good thing.
It's sad that the Democrats are using a tragedy like this to try to push their political agenda. So at this point, we don't even really know factually everything that occurred to be able to make a decision.
Lavarello says the session wouldn't have been about politics, but preventing another tragedy.
But I really don't think this is a partisan issue. This is an issue that a lot of people want to try to put their hands around and come up with a solution for, because too many people are dying at the hands of these assault weapons.
He also disagrees with the argument that gun restrictions can't prevent gun violence.
There's not one single shred of scientific evidence that has ever supported the fact that the more guns we bring in, the less gun violence we'll have. That's just, it's crazy thinking.
But Stubbe, like many other Florida Republicans, stand firm when it comes to protecting Second Amendment rights.
I think there's a lot of things that we can do at the state level to allow law-abiding citizens' rights to defend themselves against terror.
Restricting those on federal terrorism watch lists from purchasing guns sounds sensible. But according to Stubbe, the state government doesn't even have to access federal records.
All of these terrorism watch lists, no-fly lists are all lists that are kept by the federal government, not by the state government. And the federal government really doesn't give out that information.
Holding a special session requires 60% support from members in both the Florida House and the Florida Senate. Only 13 of Florida's 40 senators voted in favor of the session, and 33 of Florida's 120 House members gave their support. Some Democrats even opposed the session, saying it would be a waste of taxpayer money.
Nothing's going to really get done. The whole idea really is just to sort of set, boundaries, set the line in the sand. And I just don't think that's appropriate for now. I don't think it's appropriate for taxpayer money. And I also think it's very, very divisive.
Lavarello isn't interested in the politics. He just wants to prevent another tragedy like the Pulse shooting from happening again.
We've got to find a solution, and to ignore it and say it doesn't exist, shame on you.
Dwayne Lindo, ABC 7, your Suncoast News.
Up next, we'll talk on both sides of the issue. Stay with us.
You know what scares me? No electricity. Yeah, when this magical box suddenly stops working, I call the pros at Mr. Sparky and they send a superhero to save the day. How's it going, Pablo?
It's going great, Mike.
Pablo possesses amazing skill. He can perform incredible feats at blinding speed.
Superhero! Couldn't have done it without you.
Modest, too.
Call 888-8-SPARKY.
Just to be clear, I don't live here.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
Call now, 800-290-0352. 800-290-0352.
Just because someone grows older, does that mean they have to grow apart from their friends or from the things they love to do? With Right at Home, it doesn't. Right at Home's professional team thoughtfully selects caregivers to help with personal care, housekeeping, meals, and most of all, staying engaged in life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you ready to go?
Oh, I sure am.
We can provide the right care right at home.
For more now, we're joined by Sarasota attorney Jeff Young, known as the gun lawyer locally, and Keith Fitzgerald, former Democratic state lawmaker and also a political science professor at New College. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
So, Keith, what happened in Tallahassee? Why did the nowhere near the threshold to get a special session approved on this issue?
Sure. One of the things that goes on in politics is a normal part of it is people try to take positions to make points. Sometimes they try to highlight differences. I think sometimes it goes too far, becomes too partisan. Sometimes it's a really important part of the process. So the members of the legislature who wanted to use this call for a special session did so because they were trying to highlight the inactivity of the state legislature on the effort to keep people who are on the watch list from being able to buy a gun.
So there are certain, let's say, Democrats who are for more gun control who still didn't vote for a special session on this issue?
Well, the person you had in the package actually voted against gun control on several different occasions. So this isn't a 100% issue in either party. But I think some people understood that a point was being made, but also understood that a bill wasn't going to pass, so they weren't in favor of the special session. And, you know, people play political games occasionally. One of the people who pushed for this idea has supported the NRA on everything they've ever done. But he's running for Congress in the area where the shooting happened, and he found religion and decided he wanted to be in front of the parade for stricter gun control. So there were some good motives, there may be some not so good motives, but that's just how politics works.
And some say a special session will be too expensive for taxpayers regardless.
Yeah, I think they usually run something in the realm of a few $100,000 a day. It depends on how important the issue is, though. So I think I might argue that this is one of those issues that's worth a few $100,000 for us to have a serious conversation. But really, I don't think anyone thought that there was ever a chance that a special session was going to happen.
Symbolic in proposal. All right. Jeff, where do you stand on all this? I'll just lob you a softball. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can just put me in the camp with Representative Stubbe and the other people on the pro-Second Amendment side that I think this was clearly just an attention-grabbing action by the legislature, similar to when the Democrats in Washington staged their sit-in where they sat on the floor and refused to get up after a while. They were simply just trying to garner attention, as he said, but I think it's, you know, it's indicative of where we are in politics in 2016 in America, where you have a tragedy like this or a terrorist attack like this, an atrocity that happens, and instead of trying to come together or working out solutions on these things, everybody picks political sides, they start doing political theater, and they try and push agendas that lots of people don't want to be pushed. So you end up with a situation like this where they try these politics and they try to exploit these situations, knowing full well that they weren't going to get anywhere, just like the Democrats in Washington, D.C. did. But, you know, it gets on the news, it gets their names out there, it gets political points during a campaign season, and I think that's what they were only trying to accomplish.
Is there any part of the Second Amendment that you'd be willing to pull back 10% on at all?
Well, I mean, that's a trick question. I mean, my gut reaction is no. The Second Amendment guarantees, in my opinion, an individual's right to possess and bear arms. And it's quite clear that's what the founders intended. That's what's written in there. I mean, there's a lot of already laws out there that have pulled back on the Second Amendment. We have more gun laws now than we've ever had. There's all kinds of gun laws on the books. We have the background checks, and a lot of states have mandatory waiting periods and bans on certain items. So I think it's been pulled back quite a bit. So I think where we are now is perfectly reasonable.
You know, the Second Amendment has not been pulled back. The Supreme Court reaffirmed in a couple of different ways this session that state and local governments do have the power to regulate guns within the broader framework of the Wilkinson's decision. And let me just say, every time something like this happens, the folks on the NRA side say it's not the right time to talk about this issue. But it turns out it's never the right time to talk about this issue. So sometimes when the political system just won't respond to the popular will, people in politics have to take some measures to get attention to their side. So I think it was quite defensible what the Democrats did in this case.
When you were a lawmaker in Tallahassee, were you approached by the NRA?
Oh, I was approached by the NRA on every single issue that ever came up. And I was not considered to be a uniform foe. I wasn't considered to be a guaranteed vote yes. But I think there are reasonable things we can do, but you have to have that conversation sometime. And it never seems to be the right time for the people who are on the NRA side. So I think that's really the point that's being made here.
Even assault weapons, you don't think they can be, are they needed? Assault weapons needed in society?
Well, there's a couple different issues. Number one, assault weapons is a term that can't be defined. Assault is an action, it's not an item. I was a former prosecutor and I'm a defense attorney now. There is already an assault ban on the books. There's a law that says assault is a crime. So assault is an action, it's not a weapon, it's not a product that is sold on the market. I basically sum it up this way. A terrorist without an AR-15 is still capable of mass murder. An AR-15 without a terrorist isn't capable of anything. It will just lay here on the table and do nothing all day. So I think the issue of when you try and phrase it as assault weapon, it's a concept that doesn't exist. They're easy buzzwords that I think anti-gun people like to throw out there because it sounds scary. They put up pictures of these dark black guns with all the stuff on it, which aren't any different than what your normal hunting rifle would be. It just looks different because it comes in a different package. So it's not an issue of assault weapons or large capacity magazines. It's an issue of who's using them and for what purpose. And if a law-abiding citizen wants to use them for a law-abiding purpose, whether it be hunting, shooting, home defense, self-defense, they should be allowed to do that, and they shouldn't be punished because the unlawful citizen wants to use them for nefarious means.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't give a hoot about the semantics of it, whether you call it an assault weapon or not. That's just a red herring. Every time this stuff comes up, we get these lectures about what an assault rifle is and what it isn't, what is not. A guy who had anger management issues and had been on the terrorist watch list 2 different times was able to get a hold of a weapon that enabled him to wound 100 people and kill 49 in a matter of a few minutes' time. That raises some issues.
Right, but the problem is...
And we should be able to have a conversation about it rather than getting a lecture about what is and isn't an assault weapon. That sounds like something we ought to be able to do something about in public policy. So let's have the conversation about what's appropriate and not lectures about what words mean.
Well, I'll have a conversation about that. What's appropriate is this is all allegedly in response to the Orlando terrorist attack. But the law that they were proposing, this no-fly, no-buy, and he just said it again, this if you're on the terrorist watch list, you can't buy an AR-15. Well, guess what? This individual wasn't on the terror watch list at the time that he purchased this gun, despite the fact that he was interviewed repeatedly by the FBI and under watch by the federal government. They did not have him on a terrorist list at the time. He passed a background check. So whenever these incidents happen, they always talk about, well, we need to have universal background checks. Well, he passed that. Or as this session was for, we need to have a no-fly, no-buy. He wasn't on the no-fly list. So none of these laws that they want to have this conversation about would have done anything to prevent what happened in Orlando, because that individual went through all the legal loops that he was allowed to go through and was still able to purchase this firearm. So short of an outright ban of guns in general, whether they're assault weapons, whether they're high-capacity magazines, whether they're handguns, there's no way to prevent somebody from doing something like that.
Well, and that's the other classic argument that's always made here. First we get the semantics, then we get the slippery slope argument, that either you have some ineffective ban over here, or you have a total, absolute ban. Nobody called for any total, absolute bans of any weapons.
Right, you're calling for laws that wouldn't do anything.
Let me finish?
Go ahead.
Come on. Nobody's calling for any absolute bans of anything. Nobody's talking about any confiscation. In fact, he is correct that this would not have even, the proposal that these people were coming up with would not have even prevented this. It was simply an effort in the wake of this event to ask the question, can we do some common sense things? Now listen, I have some real questions about the policy that was proposed personally, because there are due process concerns. If you start taking away a right without enabling a person to have some kind of challenge to that right being taken away, I think we have to ask questions. And we want to make sure that this would be equally applied. So I'm not an absolutist on this issue at all. But you can't go from, well, unless you come up with a complete and absolute 100% ban, you can't do anything. It's true, this would not have even stopped this guy, which shows you how reasonable and limited the basic concept these folks were talking about was.
Les, to comment?
But he's wrong in the sense that the point of this session and your entire article or the video clip that you played before this was to have the no-fly, no-buy terrorist list. It wasn't to start a common sense gun phrase legislation. It was to specifically pass this law in response to Orlando, which wouldn't have stopped Orlando or any of these other mass shootings that we have. So once again, you just have political points, political talking situations, people trying to push an agenda, and people don't like that.
Jeff, Keith, thank you both for your time. A good discussion. We can do it again, go for 2 hours next time, hopefully. We'll have some viewer comments on last night's show after this. Stay with us.
US Med has great news for anyone living with diabetes.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, US Med will ship a new glucose meter right to your home.
And shipping is free.
My new meter uses only a speck of blood, so it's less painful than my previous meter.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, you're covered with US Med. We're welcoming new patients, even if your current provider can't supply you anymore.
I don't even have to test on my fingers anymore. I can test on my hand or forearms, and it's more accurate than my old meter.
So call US Med today, and you'll have a choice of 2 great meters.
One that actually speaks your results, or a meter so small it fits on the bottle of strips.
Act now, and US Med will include a free prescription discount card. We'll also send you a free diabetes cookbook. This is your opportunity.
So call US Med today.
You'll be glad you did.
They took that stress and that tension when I was particularly feeling very bad after that nasty car accident, and it was such a relief to know that I didn't have to bear that burden alone, that I had help.
Our goal is to not just get a satisfactory settlement on their case. We want them up on their feet, happy again. They've gotten their life back.
They're coming back. Parking meters coming back to downtown Sarasota. And not everyone's pleased. Here's some of our viewer mail from last night. Megan wrote, learn from the past and stop repeating failed projects and wasting resources. There is no issue with turning over spots with the way parking enforcement patrols. 2 hours is sufficient. Beth Wilson writes, I am not opposed to the meters. I might actually be able to find a place to park. I am opposed to the city spending more money to put them in again. And this writer says, I always thought instead of putting parking meters downtown, why not put the meters at the public beaches? Meters at beaches will generate tons of revenue and hurt no one's business. Visit our Facebook page when you can at facebook.com/news@7. That's our show for now. I'm Ray Collins. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Have a good evening.